Sandy, Barbara Turner's here. Richard, happy birthday, he's here.
Oh, hey, Richard.
This is what he's doing at his birthday.
Sarah Millish, and
He
Steve
is.
Philbrick, and Ann
Yeah.
Harrison, and Benny Hall's on
Oh,
Zoom.
gosh, that's great.
Yeah. Gar's in
New Zealand,
New Zealand, so we're gonna miss him.
dirty dog.
Okay,
Oh, not like.
is Mike Pratt here? I don't
No.
see. All right, so this is a sort of a special meeting of the task force because we want to be ready for next week when Emily is gonna make a presentation, and we want to make sure that she's using districts that we all agree on.
Yeah.
Responsibilities. So I'm just going to open this up for discussion, I guess. And maybe Richard, would you be willing to sort of? Would you specifically requested this meeting? Would you start off with a statement, please?
Sure. Well, I requested it because it occurs to me that we are at the point where our decision is a geographic decision. We know that every area we've looked at can be made to work. And what I'm concerned about is that we're running out of time, and every time we wait for a reiteration with Emily, we get closer to being forced into a decision that we may not be the outcome. That's why I asked for it, and I think that we know that it might be worth discussing what we care about most. We talked last week at the end about the push-pull between development in the inner districts on which risks existing neighborhoods and the larger size of developments in the LCD. So the more we disrupt or potentially disrupt existing neighborhoods, the smaller the development that we have to authorize in the LCD, which is a tough consideration. We also identified an area of 20+ acres in the inside circle area, which relieved us from the necessity of a full 20-acre parcel in the LCD. That was a pretty big event, I thought. So it seems to me that I think our decision now is, do we agree on that pine 20-acre pine to powder house 20-acre district? And if we do, what is the mix of other properties in the inner circle that we wish to choose? And if we choose them, how well do we do with the LCD district? So what you have in front of you is a set of 3 maps, and these maps show,
Show us which ones we're choosing.
well, I have 3.
Well, that's.
We can sort that out. They're just the same map, only they're different zooms. So, and they all have the same coding.
Maybe hold it up for a second so.
So, What these show
We
you,
don't have that one.
what these, and it's the least important maybe. What these show you is the potential development on a parcel. If you build it out to 15 units per acre. Now, it's approximate.
Oh, okay.
I use 2,500
That's a bigger one.
2,500 square foot per unit. So, and that's approximately right. It has to be a little higher than 15 because you have roads and so forth. Also, I only evaluated them on the basis of what was available. I took out the excluded land. The green areas are either over 900 use code, which means they're inaccessible to us and cannot be included in an MBTA zone. The blue areas are all 4-family and less. And the shades of red take you up from a very light shade, which is 5 to 8, all the way up to very dense shades. Now, this doesn't take into account aggregation of parcels or anything like that. It's just a rough idea. And what it tells me right off the bat is that there's only a very small area in town where only a few small areas in town where you can actually get away without having developments in excess of 10 to 15 units. So just put that for your consideration. The other zoom of that same area shows you the parcels at the Upper School Street LCD dimension. I apologize. I meant to put in the acreage on each one of those parcels. That would be helpful. I'll work on that while we're talking. But that I just did that so that you can sort of get an idea of what's up there. Because however we jigsaw in the in-town development area, obviously we have to come up with a combination of parcels in the LCD that does not grossly exceed the 35, or we're sort of shooting ourselves in the foot. But I hope this advances the discussion of this push-pull problem, which I certainly understand is a real issue.
Yeah, well, can we go back to your first premise, Richard, which I think is a good one, that we just need to be sure we're all on the same page. That there is in the Powder House, Sawmill Circle, Morse Court, and then Pine. You've got a total of about 20 acres. Do we all agree that that's our first priority?
Well, I did some calculations, okay? And it seems to me we have to go back to the original Lower Pine in order to get the 50% contiguous on that site.
Yes, to go back to the original Pine Street map that looks like this.
Yeah, it goes all the way up to the.
Not the modified, not the
No, not the,
modified.
not the diminished.
And when I did that and included Brook and Desmond, then I could include just the 10-acre map.
Can we drop Brook and Desmond for a moment, from my point of view, because that seems to me a completely separate issue. It's not
Well,
connected.
the reason I included it, Richard, was because that was the way in the LCD to only have to include the 10-acre map and not have to include both the Family Medical Associates in the map. And it meets the 50% contiguous on that Lower Pine, Morse Court, and Powder House. If you want to have more development in the LCD, then you wouldn't include the brick.
Here's why I disagree with you.
And I would decrease the Brook Desmond by 1.4 acres.
Well, can we find out where we're agreeing first and nail that down and then go to discussion? But
Let's see what
Ian's trying to
Ann has to
say
say.
something.
First, I think we're at a point of contention where it's going to be important to not talk over each other. And second, another way of adding acreage to the Powder House, the Pine, is to go up adjacent to Powder House, and there are a couple of lots, maybe 3 or 4 on Friend Street that we could include, and also contiguous on the other side of Sawmill Brook, that house is contiguous. Are 2 lots on the western end of Night Circle.
But why do we want to be switching around the districts at this point in time?
Because I'm sorry, I thought we had discussed this enlarged school street issue area at the last meeting.
No.
So if you go up Pine Street, as we did in our original drawing of Pine Street, to include on both sides of the street, up past to the
Newport Park.
Newport Park. That with Powder House Hill is more than 20 acres. We did discuss this at the last minute meeting. It did come up.
It's 19.1.
No, it's over 20.
Well, where are you getting that? Because I'm looking at the numbers she gave us. And it has 8.8, 7.6, and 2.8,
Yeah.
which is
Yes.
19.1.
There's several differences that make it so, and I have corresponded with them, so I know I'm right. One, when you aggregate areas, you pick up the streets. Second of all, they are making all their measurements by convention, excluding the frontage streets. That is a convention that they are able to choose.
What do you mean by excluding?
Well, if you draw a map around an area.
Yeah.
And if you draw that map so that you stop right at the external street all around the area, you get one measurement.
Yeah.
If you go to the midpoint of the street, you get another. Now,
Okay,
you'd think
okay.
it wouldn't matter, but I'll give you an example where it does. If you measure the warehouse to the Summer Street parcel, you're under 4 acres, as she told us at the last meeting. But if you do it by measuring to the center of the road, which is acceptable, you are over 5 acres.
Mhm.
So the reason I was responding to you the way I did, pardon if I overspoke, is that to me, that Pine to Powder House district is just an obvious choice.
Right,
And it's a single choice, so if we could accept that, that's 20 acres. Now that leaves us with another 15. And we've got
17.
combinations
17.
in the LCD.
We need 37, 17.
Yeah, combinations in the LCD. We've got Valentine to Summer, and we've got Desmond.
Right.
So it would advance the case, I think, if I'm
I mean, I would say.
I think the challenge with the LCD is there's two parcels. One is 13 and one is 10. So we need the numbers to match with those two.
There are
Yes,
there are other parcels in the LCD. The one that's currently warehouses and trucks, and one adjacent to it, both privately owned. And they together are, I've forgotten whether it's 7 or 9, and there's the MAC,
At the max 10.
the max 10, and between those two, you've got your 17 plus. One of the two on Beaver Dam Road. One of the two on Beaver Dam Road, I think, is 2.9. And the other one is over 5.
The one that goes up at water. also
Those
owned
long
by
skinny
Brady.
one.
That's from
Yeah, but
Utopia
so-
Farm.
So, no, I'm not going to Utopia Farm, I'm going to Beaver Dam Road.
Yep.
And there are 2 privately owned parcels there that are currently mildly industrial.
But Beaver Dam Road, that property has a lot of wetlands on it. Because when it came before the ZBA, they had to change things on that property to avoid the wetlands.
Is that these in here? What we're talking about?
I really don't know from looking at the map, I'm sorry.
it doesn't show as wetlands much past the border on the map. And
Beaver Dam is the opposite side of, is next to the CST property.
Yeah, I think we're talking about 2140 and 81-120.
Where are you, which map are you looking
Oh, he's looking at these.
Yeah.
No,
And I'd also like to raise the parcel where Utopia is, because it's 4.5 acres. It runs all along, so it connects to the Gurley building, so you could in fact add it to the Gurley building and come up with a pretty good size.
But the question is how much acreage do we want in the LCD versus
Right,
downtown?
that's exactly right. Well, there's 12 acres at Gurley and
But
there's 4.5 at Utopia.
If we included Brook downtown, we only need 10 up there,
or Valentine.
or Valentine, right?
I have a
How much was Valentine?
Valentine is 5.
Okay,
We
Brook
know
is 10,
4-1.
so we need Valentine plus something else.
Well, we need Valentine in town.
And we
I'm not
need-
sure what I followed.
12 additional.
Well,
acres
if
then,
you add 20 and
and 5,
25, you need,
12.
you could use the medical center, I guess, because that's 13.
Yep.
Right, yeah. But then you gotta make sure that the Lower Pine Moors and Powder House are 50% of the total acreage.
Right.
It's not 50% of the,
That's a good point.
yeah,
Yeah.
So my argument is that the Desmond Brook is more disruptive. It also has some large developments on it. Whereas the Valentine to Summer is primarily on highly developed land now.
can you explain the components of that parcel?
That runs around from Valentine parcel there on the end of Tappan.
Yep,
It picks up a house, it crosses the tracks
yep,
and goes up.
and picks up that house across the tracks at the corner of
does-
C.
Yeah, it
Yep.
does just to get the intersection because
Yep.
you need that roadway.
Yep.
And it climbs down both sides of Summer.
Yes, there
It
is.
goes on the south side of Summer as far as it can, stops at the.
Crossways.
So
stops at
how are you
Fort Knox.
getting from that house on C Street to Summer?
It's on the corner.
No, it
the-
isn't.
The one by the railroad?
No, no, you go right across the tracks
Here,
I'm talking about,
here's the map.
I'm thinking of the old,
It's got the.
yeah, here's the map. This is the map we were looking at.
If you're walking from Valentine to Summer, aren't there two houses?
So it includes all those houses along C Street on the railroad tracks.
all of C Street you're including.
Yeah, I think,
No,
No, no.
no, we're including,
not both sides of C Street.
we're including this, the house across the house on this side of the tracks. See, the little house,
The little tiny house.
yeah.
Yeah.
And,
And then next to that is Spy Rock Hill, and there's no other houses on that side of C Street,
nothing else included.
but there's houses on the other side.
They're not included. The only houses that are included are on Tappan.
So how are you getting from that little house on C Street to Summer Street?
You just go right across the tracks from Valentine.
That takes you
To
to,
the substation.
You just go right across that whole area there to, it works. I mean, I gave it to, this went to Ennis, okay?
right, but we haven't seen it. That's our problem
Actually,
is
we did see it.
we haven't seen the parcels.
Oh, well, we talked about them at the last meeting,
Can
but
I just
I can
Over
bring it up.
the,
It is there.
can I go over it one more
There's all
time?
the-
Let's say I'm walking on C Street, okay? I cross the tracks, the teeny house is on my right.
Yep.
A giant rock where they're doing something is just past that. And then
Building
there's a
garage.
kind of rundown White House on.
Not included,
Not included. Rock ledge, not included.
not
Just
included.
the teeny house on the right.
Yeah,
And so,
but to your left, what's to your left across that intersection?
Harbor Point,
No,
okay,
Summer Street.
MBTA lot and the train tracks.
No, as you come across Summer Street from C, you're at the big development area. At the
Right.
48.
Would it be helpful to see this property map
yeah.
here?
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I
no,
just
it's
wanna
quite
make
all
sure
right.
I'm absolutely sure.
Yeah.
Because I walk this area every day.
So here we go.
You should.
I'm going there.
That's the tracks. Here's Summer Street.
Yeah, so you go
Here's
up,
East
you go
Street.
up to there and then down and this, and that's.
Okay, there's the little house here.
Yep.
Okay, Spy Rock.
Yep.
There's
There's
that,
Tappan.
there's that sort of rundown. And so you're saying.
And
you go-
1502 is
Is what?
MBTA.
Yeah, that's the track right away, yeah.
Okay, and then
What's
there
the
are
46?
two houses here.
Those are C Street
Two
houses.
houses, that's right.
Yeah, it's two houses.
Richard says they're not included.
So then how do you get from this over to here?
Go across Valentine, I think.
Here's
No,
another.
Valentine's here.
Can you see,
We're
you can
here.
see here on the GIS map. You just mark. You're down here,
Yep,
you just come right across like this.
so you don't need anything over there.
Well, here's the thing, and I was gonna mention it. We're right at the edge of 5 acres. In order to get Emily's group to agree that it was 5 acres, because they were not including the middle of the street. I had to pick up this edge parcel, which we were going to exclude.
Which edge?
This one, this empty
little
lot,
one.
the empty lot here.
Good
Okay,
luck.
but when we go to.
The one with the garage on it?
No,
The one next
it's
to it.
empty, I think. Oh, even me, it does have a garage.
It does, yeah.
But if we go to the midpoint of the street, which they have agreed they can do, then we don't have to do that.
So you're picking up 1502?
Well, unfortunately, the numbering on the MBTA coding and the numbering here and our parcel numbering is different.
With the map Sarah has the lot numbers.
1502, and I don't see that it's contiguous to anything other than a house on C Street.
Right, that's my question.
Because then you have Harbor's Point
Right.
that is contiguous with 46022.
Harbor's Point.
Yeah, 1501.
Okay, hold on, let me see if I can.
This is Valentine,
right,
fifteen oh
this is
four.
Valentine here, and there's this little parcel here.
Yeah.
And then you go across, well, you have to go
That-
across the street there.
But that's C Street House.
Yes, those are C Street.
I don't see how
And
you
then
can
go-
get from here to
Well,
Summer
what's-
Street,
Right,
because this one doesn't connect to the 46022.
right. Well, yeah,
It doesn't.
Sarah, here's the GIS map. You go right across here.
You're just zoning the street.
Yeah, you go right across, you have to cross the street. So you go across, and you just come up like this.
So you're including the street, not the houses. So you're not using that 1502 property.
Which one is that?
It's a little one next to Harbor's Point. It's along the
I
track.
mean,
Right,
It's
right
When you
there.
say Harbor's Point,
It's
you
a
mean
little-
12
That's
Summer.
this one.
it's a little
Little
tiny
street, what?
rectangle. It's a
Yeah, why
little-
wouldn't you include,
That,
why wouldn't, I mean, you
Because-
have to. include it
Because Valentine's over here,
Yeah, this is the house, this is the little house on the track.
Right.
right, and Valentine,
Valentine's is here.
Yeah.
We just come across like this.
let's see.
Yeah, we have to pick these up.
Right, okay, so.
You
You
have
have
to
to, you
pick
don't
that
actually
one.
have to pick this up, but you do have to pick this up.
okay, so you're picking
Okay,
up the
yeah,
house
then
on the
you
corner
pick
of
up
C and
those-
Oh,
Summer.
yeah.
The one that is dark,
I'm sorry,
that's
was
dark blue.
Yeah.
The dark blue
Yeah.
house.
It used to
Okay.
be rose colored.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah, okay, now we're in the same.
We're on the same.
Yeah, I mean, look, none of us are happy about doing any of it.
Yeah.
No,
No,
I
it
wanna
just-
understand what you're
Right.
suggesting, now I do.
And
So
that,
all right, so where are we now?
But they're all such tiny parcels that the odds of them being redeveloped.
I know, I just wanted to
Very,
make.
very small.
I think, yeah, I'm just wanted to understand
What it was.
what the zone
Exactly,
was.
exactly.
Okay, then the zone goes down and includes 12 Summer and the apartments there, and then also the gas station on the corner.
the
And
gas
the-
station.
And Stanley's.
And
Yeah.
Stanley's Garage.
So across the
And is it both sides of Summer?
Yes, oh, it's
No.
not both sides, all right.
It is both, well, that's not true. You're both right. It's both sides of Summer until it has to stop.
It stops.
It
at
has to stop on the
Crosby's.
south side.
So it doesn't include Crosby's?
No.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
or
It
the
doesn't include-
But it
driveway.
includes that long parcel
It doesn't
from,
include the long one.
It
from,
includes the dry cleaning.
well, that's all part of one long parcel.
It stops,
The dry cleaning down to Crosby's is one
Stops at the
parcel.
Substation.
it stops at the substation.
Oh, substation.
Okay, so no dry
And
cleaner,
then,
no
and then
Crosby's.
it goes up past, the gas station, there's one small house, I believe it includes that also. Where there's a store.
Oh,
The dentist's office.
beach.
and the cleaner.
Well, that's all one parcel down to Crosby's.
Okay, so it stops
cleaner-
here at 46, so it stops here. Now,
Wait, are we clear though where where
No,
it stops?
I'm not
Okay.
clear.
Okay, let's keep trying.
You're looking at the blue, right?
The aqua
Yes.
color, yes.
So. And then this is a different.
it stops at 46021, which is the right opposite the east corner of the apartment building. So
Oh, is that the dentist? No, it's,
The dentist is in the same lot as the
Dry
dry
cleaner.
cleaners.
yeah,
Dentist is above the
Well,
dry.
right, they're the same building.
Right,
And
same
Madam
building.
had them,
No, building,
No,
Madam
that's
that's
Adam
the
is a
same
separate,
lot,
it's a separate building.
but it's the same lot.
That's right.
it stops at the power station.
so it
Okay.
doesn't include the dry
Okay.
cleaner.
Okay,
Stops at the
I
power.
don't know what you mean by stops.
It does not progress up Summer Street past the power station.
So it doesn't progress towards Beach Street from the
Does not.
power station? Okay.
It has to stop there because that's the last parcel. You're
Okay.
you're absolutely right.
Okay.
So you've got the power station, you gotta cross the street to get to 10 and 12
Correct.
something.
Yes,
Okay.
and and luckily it's there. I mean,
Yeah,
the Summer Street
Behind your
development
house.
land is there.
yes.
He knows it well.
This is proof that NIMBY does not rule. This is literally in my back.
Right.
Yeah, literally. Richard, does the parcel, that goes up from the gas station also include this 4602? I
Uh,
think it does.
I
Just
can't
to be
remember.
clear where it ends.
I think it may, and
I
I
think
think
it
the
has
issue
to.
there, the issue there is that my drawing and Emily's drawing differed because of the use of midpoint streets. So I think I would have to say, could be. I don't know for certain on that. There's other options you could take. You
Right.
could climb up Summer, you could do a number of things. You hit the historic district at the corner of Washington.
Right.
When you guys get finished, I have a couple of points, a couple of comments to make.
Go ahead. Kim.
Go ahead, Danny, this is a good time.
Okay, couple things. I mean, one of the goals of the task force, I think, is to try to do as little damage as we can. My sense is anything on Tappan Street will be immediately developable. And we need to consider that. And then the question is, where are we on the Gordon parcel? I did get a text from Chris Imming. And basically, well, I'll read it to you. He said, we had additional productive meetings with our consultants and third parties this week. Gordon believes we have identified ideas and opportunities that meet the town's MBTA master plan objectives. We feel the logical next step is for us to interface with Emily to explore those further, to confirm that they comply with state expectations. If they do, as a landowner, we feel it would be beneficial for these ideas to be considered by the task force / planning board as part of your efforts. And I responded by saying, I think the first filter would be to have a conversation with the task force committee or some subcommittee. Because I'm not sure where we are with that parcel now, and obviously it depends to some extent on what we do in town. So,
Okay, so Danny, that was the next item on the agenda after this, but I guess it's
Sorry.
probably a good idea to talk about it now is Eddie.
I just didn't want to lose it, that's all.
Somebody else is probably gonna say it, but I think we should say it in the meeting, that the only reason we're considering this parcel at all is because of the fact that conservation restrictions would be imposed as part of the deal. Is
Right.
that correct? Danny?
That's correct. I mean, I think the most significant hot button is that we could devise a strategy whereby we could protect the town's water supply and put most of the rest of the land that wasn't being developed into conservation.
So it'd be like 120 acres, right?
It's round numbers based on looking at the lot sizes. Yeah, somewhere between 110 and 140.
Okay.
Denny, is it safe to say, given the attitude of the college, that there would be pressure on development of this at some point anyway? In your opinion?
In my opinion, at some point under the current zoning, yes. However, having said that, multifamily would be a more immediate and more likely use of the land. I don't think there's any question about that.
Any other discussion on this?
Is there any, what is the developable acreage that, or range of developable acreage sizes that is possible?
Well, I think there's several sites on the property that are sort of on closer to the college. And we've identified a couple of 20-acre parcels, 2 or 3. There could be, and they could be, smaller. But I think based on some very preliminary conversations with the college, if we did a smaller parcel, they might want to reserve some of that land that might go into conservation for another use.
And I guess we could balance, if we wanted
I mean,
lower density there, we could balance that with higher density in some other district.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I would suggest is we ought to, I think it would be prudent to sit down with the college to see what their thoughts are, and go from there, because it is an option. We need to, like every other one of these sites that we've been looking at, we need to fully vet them out. And I don't know what the college has come up with, but I can tell you they're spending time and money, which is always a good thing if you're on the other side. So I would suggest sitting down with them as part of this exercise, just to see what their thoughts are. And at least we can either take the next step after that, or we can kick it aside.
I was just going to point out that that area is currently zoned for, it's in the LCD, it would require the town to change the zoning if they were to want to develop it outside of this process.
For residential.
Yeah, for residential. Of course, they could do it for commercial, but they need to.
They haven't found anything to use it, and they've tried at least twice.
Okay, so now we've talked about 2 potential districts, actually 3.
Well, are we all agreed that the Powder House, Morse Court Pine is the core?
I think so.
I would agree with that.
I do.
I love it.
It solves 2 problems. It
Yeah.
gives us our 20 acres
Yes.
and
The 20 contiguous,
I think it's,
and it's already dense, so the changes, like, well, we'll see what the changes.
Okay, so that leaves the Desmond Brook cricket parcels.
And the Valentine's Summer Street.
And well, I guess we've talked about nowadays, but we haven't agreed to it, I guess, that's right. So I want to make a pitch for Desmond Brook. And that is that it's already pretty densely developed. There's one large site there, which is in back of the old cricket building. If there were proper design controls, it would not be necessarily a big massive building. We're probably talking about maybe 20 units back there. Unless they want to tear down the existing building, which seems unlikely, but I don't know. And it would include a bunch of pretty dense residential uses along Brook Street and Desmond Ave, which are there already. So the net increase in new additional housing units would be relatively low in this area if it were to be included.
Yeah, I would add to that 2 things. One is that you're taking, it is primarily a residential zone, but it has this 2 big commercial parcels. So you're preferencing it for residential, which is, I think, probably a good thing and consistent with the surrounding uses. And then the other thing is, we've talked a fair amount about providing for the needs of seniors in town and maybe some sort of assisted living and all of that. And if you were going to have such a development on the larger parcel, the old cricket and the one property and the one next to it, that might be a great place where people could actually walk to town. I mean, it's not way the hell and gone. So
How big is the cricket? Well,
I think the total between the 2 is like about 3, but you would have to correct me. I don't have my map. You have my
The cricket
map.
property is 2 acres and a little bit, I think.
Yes, and the one adjacent is about an acre, a little less.
Yeah, the cricket is 2.4.
And what's the one right next to it?
What is referring to?
Right.
Cemetery?
The cemetery.
No, this guy here. Oh, where's the Verizon?
The Verizon is behind it.
well, behind it, easement.
Kind of, but it gets to the street. It's about a half an acre for your price. It looks like.
This,
Verizon
I think that's it.
is- Yeah, half of it, that is Verizon.
Right, so the total is about 3.
this area is appealing for a couple of reasons. But what I find disturbing about it is, first of all, an over 40 unit development right there in town. That is not a small development.
Right.
And the Verizon building next to it would add another 10 units. Who knows if that's particular or not. It cuts a swath across the center of the village from Desmond across. What's appealing about it is that Desmond is already dense and we have the upper pine. But what's not appealing to me is that it cuts through another 10 to 15 houses and also plants this large development in the center of town. Some people might find that appealing, I understand, I don't.
It's a little out of the center.
It's a nasty intersection there at
Yeah.
Washington and C and Summer.
Yeah,
That's
well, it's a little bit up from that.
It's a little bit up from that, but
No,
to get,
it's,
to get from there
yeah.
to,
The cemeteries, you have to get past the cemetery.
Yeah,
to
it's-
get
Yeah, but it's that whole intersection.
It's
not.
just over the rise so that you can't see who's coming
Right.
out C Street or.
Yes,
or-
yes, you have to think about where you cross
Um,
the street.
So, all right, I guess I've spoken my reasons for opposing it.
Well, the thing, I have been thinking about that also, and that the number would be, you know, at 3 acres, it would be 45 units. But actually, what we're accustomed to looking at in town, the development of 1012 Summer.
How
is-
many units are
is,
there?
I believe
38.
39. 39. On Newport Park is 32, the Plains is 38, so that you have developments that are that size around town. I don't recall how many units, I think it's quite a bit less, that are in the Pine Street condos. I think it's 11 or 12 units.
That density is less than,
Yeah,
less
it's
than
way
a
less.
third of what this is. I would also, just to Sandy's point, we should not be discussing senior housing or assisted
Oh, we
living
can't.
in relationship to this. So to bring it up as an argument for this
Well-
development is, I think,
But we're not gonna prevent,
Fanciful.
we're not gonna require it, but there's a need there. And so where there's need, there might be something built.
that I cannot, that does not compute for me.
Well, one of the things we could do is create a sub-district with stricter rules there for, right, to make it smaller scale development. As long as we kept the density.
Well, if you want to build a 40-unit building, we can build 40-unit buildings in lots of places in town. We've been restricting ourselves from going outside the downtown district because we didn't want to build 40-unit buildings.
Sure.
Now we're saying it's okay as long as it's downtown. I find that,
I think what
We're not saying it's okay, we're playing with the idea of it and what the pros and cons are.
I understand, but in proposing it as a possible plot, you're arguing that 40 units there is not bad.
Well,
Well,
I'm thinking about what's across the street from there. So there's a mixture, if my memory's correct, of some multifamily, but some single family homes right across the street from there. So that's something to think about.
it could also require that no building should, let's say, have more than 4 units. So that someone has to come in and divide the lot or build multiple buildings with all their design review standards. And we could even add additional requirements for this particular sub-district of our, because we can zone each sub-district slightly differently with specific standards. The other option would be to include almost all of this area and just kind of wrap around the cricket piece so that you go over to this housing development. And then wrap
Down
around
here.
in the
Well, Brook Street condos.
area as well, and you just exclude that. I mean, understanding that it is zone general, your business district, so it might get a business development on it at some point in the future.
Hmm.
But then again,
Mark, how do
Yeah.
you get to 5 acres? You'd have to eat up a lot of houses in that district to get to 5 acres if you didn't. do that.
You'd have to go down Allen
Allen Street, but Allen Street, in looking at your capacity map of existing density. Like one of them. I can find the right one, but already had a fair number of units on it. So if you included that area of Allen Street as well, and the lots are rather small here, if you go through
Yes.
here, this.
Oh, yeah, this is-
The small lot argument
Here.
applies there.
Yeah, you have
Existing.
between 5 and 10 units on each one of those lots.
But what,
According to your, this one here, Richard?
this is Summer Street?
Yeah, you want
That's a river.
similar thing. So you already have a fairly high base zone.
That's the
Number of
school,
units.
that's the school field.
So if you include
No,
that whole area in here, and same thing along, what's this street here?
This is Norwood.
Go down Norwood,
This
just
must be Lincoln
behind the cricket building. and
no,
then
that's
you
Lincoln Street.
Pick up
This
the
is
rest
Brook.
of it to go into.
To go over to Desmond.
And that's
Yes.
Allen right
This is
there.
Desmond. This is the
You
big-
should
Yeah,
get at
this is
least
Allen.
5 acres there.
Boy, you have chopped out a lot in, of neighborhoods in the downtown district, to me.
Well,
I'm torn when I see that to say, okay, why don't we could go lots of places if we're gonna do that. We could go out Summer Street, we could go all over the place.
But it picks up 2 fairly high density areas that already exist. So your incremental increase,
It's gonna be
if it
small.
could be built, still would be fairly small. Most likely, most of those parcels would be redeveloped anyways.
And how many acres are we talking there?
I can't, I don't know.
It's
how
a
to do
rough
that
number, but it
calculation.
looks like it might be about half. So
It'd be
you-
at least
5
it could
acres?
be at least 5 acres, yes.
So you got 5 acres there, you got 5 acres at Summer,
Well, actually, you know how much, well,
10, so that's
no, you might, because what you,
30 acres, and now you need a 7 acre.
Oh, brother, you're gonna take out Vine, Brook, Norwood to Desmond to do that.
No, oh, yes,
I,
not Vine, not Vine.
no,
well, I thought you just said Vine.
no, Norwood to Brook, to Allen.
Well, Brook to Allen, I guess we have to measure it out. I'm concerned, I would question whether Desmond and Brook get to 5 acres. That's why we included the cricket.
Well, the cricket and the adjacent property are 3 acres, so what remains in that district is 7. Right, because the
Mhm.
total district is 10. The one, I mean, I'm ambivalent. But the other thing that I noticed when we were creating the density walk is that topography makes a very big difference in one's perception of how dense things are. And the topography there of the old cricket building and the Verizon building help a lot.
Goes down
It goes
off the
down.
street.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Can we go back to Tappan for a second? Because Denny raised that as a concern. And I think, Denny, we're just talking about the Valentine properties.
Yeah.
Tappan, which I don't quite understand how the zoning works there.
It's single residence right now. And we had before the ZBA, a proposal to convert it to 4 condo units in the existing structures.
And has it
And
lost
it
its,
had 8, no,
so it could
they're
maybe,
still using it for storage.
so it could still be used for storage indefinitely.
Right, but what came before the ZBA was 4 condo units with 8 parking spaces. Using the existing structure, so the 4 condos were in the existing Valentine Movers building.
Yeah.
And then having garages in the existing garages. And the pushback from the neighbors was significant. And the determination was made that it was a change of use for a non-conforming use, and we didn't have the authority to do the change of use. Would have been a variance for a change of use, and we didn't have the authority.
We all, I think, hate that we have to consider this, but we are going to have complaints wherever we go.
The thing I noticed on the map for Tappan, Denny, is that, the whole area, all of Tappan actually, except for Valentine's, it appears, is in a so-called sensitive zone, and I think it might be because it's a floodplain. I
Yeah,
don't,
it's
There's
someplace back-
drainage issues at the back of the 34 Tappan Street property. The town was coming in to do something about.
yeah, but the whole,
There used to be a brook there.
Thank you.
there you go.
Mud flats, right? It was tidal. It was tidal.
All of Tappan was tidal, oh my gosh, well,
Not the street. The street and most of the houses are on the slope. Their backyards
Yeah.
were,
yes,
And Tappan was originally general district, rezoned as District A, so most of those lots are small.
And what's interesting is that at the end on Beach Street, if you go right on Beach Street towards Harbor Point, there are some pretty dense multifamily properties there.
along Tappan, along
Along
Beach.
Beach.
Along Beach.
Tappan.
Right, but
that was getting to them without,
It's a challenge.
without.
Oh, yeah, no,
That's
I don't think we can include it, but I think it's.
No, we couldn't figure out. In terms of the floodland there is a little excluded land in that selection, but it's very small. At least as far as MBTA is. concerned.
Right, exactly. May not be buildable, but as far as MBTA, there's very little that's.
it should be more, because when you look at the projections for the 30 years, the 50 year,
But we don't care.
I know,
I
but
mean, if the MBTA includes less excluded land than they should, that's to our benefit. Because
Well,
we're
not until,
including more land that probably can't be built on anyway.
not until somebody
The
develops it.
MBTA thinks it is.
Denny has something
We've
to
got a
say,
couple people have their hands.
yeah, well, I'm gonna take questions after.
yeah, yeah.
Yes, Denny, go ahead.
Yeah, to Sarah's point, it matters because if it becomes developed, we gotta live with it.
Well, it still has to go to the Conservation Commission, I assume.
Right. They still have to consider whether they can develop a parcel. I mean, the disconnect is that the MBTA zoning is looking at very little of, they're just looking at the FEMA map in effect, right?
Yeah,
Excluding that, so there's other land that you can't really develop. So if you can't really develop it, then doesn't that keep the developers out?
well, the question, I guess, is, what does as of right allow you to do? And what don't you have to, what bars don't you have to jump as a consequence of that?
So the answer to that, Denny, is that you have to jump through every hoop except the zoning.
Okay. So why don't we find sites all over town that are wet and
Well, because most of the town is excluded land, that's why.
okay, I'll tell you what, why don't we lease the town hall to a developer for $1 a year, make it unexcluded?
Yes.
That's a very original proposal.
I'm sure it'll be in the cricket next week. too. Okay, so where do we go from here? We've now talked about every one of these districts. We've all agreed pretty much on one of them for sure, which is the Powder House, Mill Circle, and Pine Street site district. The other ones,
We don't necessarily have to do anything down. There is also, we've
well,
got
we don't.
multiple possibilities.
So I guess what I'd like to do is somehow come down to two alternatives for the town to consider. These would be recommendations from the task force. And the first would be put quite a bit of this development out in the LCD because it's not gonna have any dramatic impact on the downtown. But it is gonna generate a lot of housing units, in fact, almost all of them. The alternative, of course, we do have to have some in the downtown because that's part of the law, so we have to do that. Can't put it all out there, half of it has to be
Yeah.
within a half mile. The other possibility is to concentrate all of this in as much of the downtown as we can, which reduces the number of new additional units. Doesn't put, what, we might have to do something on the LCD, but not very much. But it's gonna have an impact on a greater part of the downtown, so that's kind of the, it's like a whack-a-mole, you can do one or you can do the other. You can't, we're just gonna have to, and maybe that's what we offer to the planning board, is
That was my comment, is if we can develop one major piece and then offer a choice of how to put together the remaining 17 acres, we may have done our job.
So we need to tie it in with the size of the parcels up in the LCD.
that's right, no, it's all connected
Because
together.
we don't want to come up with
Oh, you don't want to, you
more
want to,
total acreage, or you're not gonna meet your contiguous downtown.
I can quickly come up with at least 4 different combinations, because you got the Pine Street for sure. And then you could have one or the other of the 2 downtown sections, or both.
Right.
And then for each of those combinations, you have some complex of choices out in the LCD.
How many acres do we have, Richard, if we take the Pine, Morse Hill, Powder House Lane, and then we do the Desmond Brook, and then we do the Valentine Summer Street? Do we know what that total acreage is?
It's too depressing for me to say. It's about 30 acres.
Well-
I just calculated roughly, depending on where you draw the line, but excluding the MAC. Doing Desmond Street around this and including Allen Street, about those houses there, you're at just under 8 acres.
That, first of all, makes no sense to me, because the townhomes on the other side of Brook are definitely houses that you would want to.
Right.
Do you want-
Second of all, you picked up, from my perspective, a lot of historic homes and altered the character of the town potentially by taking out a very large neighborhood.
Well, so this was an area that was.
yes, it's already apartments.
Well, that's the
And-
smallest
And
part.
this is a part, that's a set of apartments also.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're set back. You've taken out the upper, you've taken out a good section of Norwood, virtually all of Allen, and a good piece of, I mean. Well,
Well,
Chris,
Okay.
I'd like to see not, you said 2 alternatives. I'd like to see more than 2 alternatives. And I'd like to see us, in each of these areas, other than the one we agree on, we all know what comprises that.
and that's 20 acres, so.
Other than that one, these others are all very different. I'd like to see us all go walk these other ones together.
Okay, that's a reasonable thing to do. sure.
And I would like to see a list of the properties in each one.
Yeah.
Parcels,
Parcel by parcel?
just the numbers.
Yeah.
Oh, the number of parcels.
No, just the
The lot
See,
number.
it's-
Just to find them,
lot,
Right.
yeah, yeah,
so that when we're at home
the map and lot
thinking about
numbers.
it, we can look at them.
I don't know what the Desmond Street parcel is yet.
Right, nor do I.
I thought we had originally a Desmond Street parcel that included the cricket.
I had one that didn't include the cricket originally.
Well,
But that
that's
was a long
why
time
I
ago.
use part of Norwood Street is to avoid using the cricket, but.
You have to use part of Norwood Street no matter what you do,
Norwood.
because you can't get to Pine
Get-
Street.
Well, you could
To
use
get to
one or two-
Desmond.
1 or 2 houses, but.
I don't think Desmond and the cricket makes 5 acres. Yeah, I don't think, I
How much
think,
is Desmond?
my recollection is that when we tried to do Desmond and the cricket going across that difference there, I don't think we got the 5, but Mark, why don't you?
Try it.
See,
Try it and
I
see.
mean, we may have to. Like the Verizon.
lovely brick house there on.
I had included a couple of houses on Norwood to get to Desmond.
Oh, yeah, across the street.
You have to cross the street and there's 1 or 2 properties that will allow you to do that.
And the brick house is on such a small lot, it may not. even
No,
qualify.
The Verizon one?
No, the
No.
really nice old brick house.
That's on School Street or Summer Street. That's on Summer Street.
Tenth of an acre.
How much is the Desmond Apartments?
Oh, no, it's talking about the brick house.
Not as big as you think.
Yeah, like a tenth of an acre.
Yeah, Desmond Park is not big.
Yeah.
But now for the Desmond Apartments,
Oh, the Desmond apartments are in 1 point. Yeah, just over an acre.
okay, and there's 3 with the Cricket and the Verizon, so that's 4. And what happens when you cross the street? Only those 2 out there.
If you get to the Brook Street condos. that would be good.
You really do want to get to the Brook Street
Right.
condos, I think.
In fact, you could go all the way down Summer to Memorial School.
Yeah, I think we did that.
Well, actually, Mark, if Mark's saying the Desmond Apartments are 1, you could. Yeah, I do remember a run that was like that.
Yeah, I think I included one side of Brook that people didn't like.
There's always one side of the street that's right, yeah.
Well, we don't like any of these.
I
I mean,
know.
that's the
Yeah, yeah.
bottom line, you know?
Yes.
True.
Mhm.
Yeah,
All right, well,
I think it makes sense to have parcels in town that would let us include like only one of the 2 up on Upper School Street, only one of those 2 properties as one option.
So you need.
I mean, I
you
think
need
one,
Gurley or the Mac, not both.
yeah, I mean, and I think one option, you've got Lower Pine, Morse Court, Powder House, and then you include both the Mac and Gurley, or 20 odd acres out on Gordon College.
Mhm. So you don't need the 20.
That-
And the
yes,
20
You
would,
only need 10.
the 20
No.
would.
No, I'm sorry, you need 17.
Yeah.
17.
You know, and so then you have another option that puts more downtown with less in the LCD,
Mhm.
but you gotta work with those parcels you have.
The thing about Gordon, my understanding is that it is better served by water and sewer.
What are you talking about?
Where, Gordon? Is that correct?
we don't care.
You don't care?
Whether we care or not, 128, there is an overpass.
Mhm.
And the water is already coming down from Gravelly Pond.
Ah,
And running a sewer line under 128,
A little bit easier
a
than.
little bit easier than running it over.
yeah, okay. Okay, so there is some ease there.
On the subject of additional units, let me point out that all of our computation here that's gonna save units by moving to the LCD is kind of obviated by the creation of 40 new units on the Cricket building.
I'm not including the Cricket building
I
in
mean,
my mind.
every 5 acres is 75 units in the LCD. Every
Right.
5 acres we take away is 75 units, and we've got over 40 right there in the Cricket building. So that's my.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of
We have,
including the Cricket building, because that's a large lot and we were trying to avoid large developments downtown.
So I think one of the things we should ask Emily or Richard to do both of them is to say, for each one of these alternatives, how many new additional units is gonna be created? as we get
Yes.
to this.
And that's what she's supposed to be doing for our next meeting,
Yeah,
is for all of the areas we've identified.
you know, we want to make sure that we have the right areas, so we don't have to do this
Yes,
again.
yes. And I think you should have more than 2 alternatives.
Well, I think
And-
that's
Well,
fine.
Sarah,
The
so,
piece I don't know is what the assumptions are in the Lower Pine, Morse, Powder House. What the assumption is regarding the number of units for a parcel.
What do you
I
mean?
don't know what's being assumed.
it comes out to around 15 units per acre.
I'm asking what she's doing in the model per parcel.
Yes, that's a good question. I would like to know too. I
Yeah.
can tell you that what I did which got to 15, was restricting to base unit 2,500, secondary units to 2,500, and in one area I had to go to 2,000
2,000 square feet
Per
of
unit.
land per unit.
per additional units.
But instead of doing the land piece, you could do, I thought she was looking at, for some reason, I thought she was looking at 4 units per lot.
She can't do that. Can't get away with that because you quickly fall apart because you're relying on those larger lots
Right.
with high density, so you couldn't possibly count them.
So she must have changed it at some point, because at one point, that's what she said.
We don't know what she's.
Right.
Well, we'll make it, I'll let her know that's what we wanna know that exactly.
So in
Because
terms
then
of,
we know what
But one of the things I do remember talking
what
about
play we
was
have.
additional density on Powder House Lane.
Right, we have asked for that several times, and it
Yeah.
hasn't occurred yet.
Well, I think that's a good.
Um,
System.
But I think that you can't know, you need to understand the assumptions for capacity before you're comparing existing and new.
Yep.
Because maybe you don't like the capacity that she's using.
I agree with that. You have to look at the details and.
Right.
And there are choices you can make even after you've got the geographic
Right.
area picked that will alter what happens.
so if we as a group have a preference for, as the additional downtown alternative, the Summer Street area or the Desmond area? Desmond.
Well, I think maybe,
I'm not clear
Personally,
where-
I need to go walk those areas
Okay.
before I can make a decision on
we'll
it.
leave them all on the table for now.
Okay,
So this area in here. which would
What
be
area you're talking about, Mark?
Between.
he's redoing the.
And we did, just so you, just for rough area,
Get
from,
that shown on the screen.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, there's a cable over there. Oh, no.
But from where the Mac building
Sure,
is,
sure.
or the Verizon building going up 127 to where those townhouses are, including those townhouses around here, but not including anything on Norwood Street.
So you need
Yeah.
that to get to
And
Desmond?
then,
Yeah,
no,
You-
you skip Desmond altogether and just include this area, it's 8 acres, so.
So this really is, it does come down to just what your position and feeling about the town is. My feeling is strongly that I don't want to see large sections of our historic town offered up for development.
So your preference would be to have all the
My
new
preference-
development in the, well, what our
We
all
s-
preferences would be to not be here.
We started out fighting for 15 acres inside the inner circle. Now we're at 20 and we're pushing it even harder. My preference is,
So you want those 17 acres in the LC.
I do, and I understand that means more units.
Well, it's a fair trade.
Why don't we each? Okay, you don't have a. When can we go for a walk, or do we just want to go for a walk separately?
We need to know what parcels are in
right,
each
I
area.
need to know where exactly I'm
Okay.
So
walking.
why don't we map those districts on one sheet per district instead of. It was very hard to read some of these other ones.
I could do Valentine. We've now, I think, had.
I think I get
we had
that one.
3 or 4 desert streets today.
Yeah, you can do it many different ways, depending upon whether you wanna just do.
Is that what we're down to, just those two, Valentine and
I think so, unless
Valentine
people
and
want to
something.
think about
something,
traffic.
whatever
Yeah,
that
what's
is.
the something?
Valentine and the Desmond, or let's say
That area.
Summerbrook,
Some-
or neither.
We're neither. Well, those are all valid, yeah, okay. All right. Well, who can draw those maps? Mark, maybe, can you do that?
I can do them with the GIS, they'll be
Yeah.
a little different, but,
You know which
I'll do
parcels are
Valentine.
being included?
okay, you do Valentine and I'll do this whole area that we've been talking about on one map. And
Yeah.
so that way you can look at it and you can each say, well, I
Get a
want
sense
get a
about,
sense of which areas you want to include, and then we can try and figure out what might or might not work.
We always have the option, once we come up with the areas, to
Mhm.
drop out parcels.
Exactly,
Okay.
so like the area I just drew from the map going up to those, including those
We're not
townhouses.
talking MAC.
No,
No,
I'm
You
including,
mean the cricket.
oh,
building.
sorry, cricket,
Cricket.
yes, the cricket.
Doesn't
No wonder why it wasn't making sense.
We were with you there.
So from the cricket going up to those townhouses is 8 acres, so you could shrink it just to
Right.
5 and have,
Leave out the cricket.
yeah, and then you'd have 5 and 5 plus your other 20-ish acre parcel. And then that would be almost 30 of your 37, so.
But we have parcels up in the LCD that are either 13 or 10. And we don't want to go up to 10.
Well,
We do have
Tell
a
me
5
again
acre.
why the
have-
parcels on Beaver Dam aren't,
Nine.
can't be considered.
Maybe we have to walk there too.
No, you don't. You just drive through it and you know.
We,
what you-
we had that at one point, and it came up with too much total acreage was the issue.
Okay, that's when we were looking, I think, for much more space in the LCD.
Well, we didn't realize what the parameters were we needed to consider, and we didn't realize that we had more area
There
up
are
there. was-
two, there's one smallish and one medium-sized parcel there.
And so,
But the bottom line then is that we can do 5, 10, or 20 acres. 5, 10, or 15, 5, 10, or 20 acres out of the LCD. Is that correct? We all agree on that?
I don't know where the 5 acre parcel is.
Well, the
4.5 acres.
Gordon College agreed a 5 acre parcel.
Well, if we had Gordon College, I would argue we should have stopped a long time ago at the 20 acres and do nothing else. I mean, why on earth would we not use all of that land if it were available to us and avoid any further
I think that's an alternative that Sue's gonna want us to think about.
and I think that you've taken 20 acres out of the general district internal downtown. That's a lot.
Fair enough.
And there's a lot of other sections of town too, by the way. Once you've opened up, we no longer are just restricted to the LCD. We're making the assumption that that we're going to take these additional 5 acre lots right out down here in the middle of the old part of town. There's lots of other areas of town we can take. And there's other areas that don't have such big developments. And these parcel size is not crazy. So are we gonna walk this together and give the neighbors a chance to welcome us?
Or we could all just do it ourselves if we know.
Actually, when we did the density walk, we met a couple neighbors and they came and showed us, and it wasn't such a bad thing because people got to talk to us about what was on their mind.
It was useful to exchange ideas.
Yes, it is.
Well,
Scheduling. I
So
hear,
whether
but-
whether we do it together or not, I mean, we could schedule one. and-
we're not gonna be able to do it this weekend, I don't think, because,
We don't know what the lots are.
well, and we can't post it in time either.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Right.
I guess we could do it Monday next week. Or we could do it next weekend, but that's.
Hey, Chris,
I
Yes,
can't
ma'am.
do it next.
we've got Chris Emming from Gordon who's attending this. He has to leave at 6:30, and I think he wanted to, he had something to say, and I think it's relevant.
Sure, no, thanks, okay, let's hear from you.
Unmute Chris.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yes, you
Yes.
sure can.
All right, well, again, my name is Chris Simming. I'm the Senior Director of Campus Planning at Gordon College. Just wanted to share and again reiterate that our posture has been collaboration with the town. We've been working with the task force through Denny since November, but it goes well beyond that for many years. We were intricately involved in the master planning process with Sue Brown. And the college has really looked at this land. And again, the college is now about 135 years old. We've been a responsible member of the community of Manchester for 70 plus years. I think it's 74 years at this point. So we are a private landowner. We understand the complexities that the task force is wrestling with as far as the challenges of our land currently being exempt. But really just wanted to speak in again, our posture is collaboration. We're not trying to force the task force a particular direction. And so we've been tracking the progress of the task force and seeing some of the challenges that you're trying to wrestle with when it comes to contiguous land as a potential challenge. And so again, we're looking at some parcels that really have the opportunity to either give you a large contiguous parcel if that's what is desirable, again, an alternative to MAC plus medical, or again, if the task force decides to recommend a higher density location in the downtown area and ultimately decides that they need a smaller area in the LCD. I just wanted to take the moment to say again, we believe that there's opportunities to uniquely look at our land, again, respecting the nature of the property and several of the concerns that have been raised throughout the process. And so realizing that you're under a pretty stringent deadline, I guess the feedback I'm just trying to provide is so far the models that Emily's providing is MAC plus medical. And as Denny mentioned, the college for years has been really invested in how do we be a good neighbor to our community in Wenham and Manchester, and most people associate the college with Wenham. But again, I believe we are one of the largest landowners in Manchester. And so when we look at the master plan and the initiatives of increasing town revenue with planned strategic development in the LCD, I just want to again take the opportunity to say that the college is open to exploring that with you. And so we have not had the opportunity to interface with Emily as she works on her models. And so we just wanted to make sure that there aren't assumptions being made by the task force of, well, our land is exempt, so it's not going to work, or, other concerns that may be eliminating that from some of the models that have been presented. So as you look to explore all possibilities, we want to make ourselves available to help you do that efficiently. Again, it's not our decision. Again, we are a private landowner. We love our community and the community members. We invite them into our land. We have many people access the trails through our property. We've usually got 30 vehicles unloading bikes and kids to get to Gull Pond. And we don't get the visibility of how members of the greater North Shore community access our land from Pine Street. But again, we think there are opportunities to very carefully explore, is there something 5, 10, 15 acres that really helps you present options to the town? Because again, everything, there's an opportunity to evaluate that further. So that's all I wanted to share, is that we're happy to interface with members of your team and your consultants as you would see fit.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I wonder, have you identified specific areas on your land that might be subdivided off to create this?
Yeah, again, we're looking at, you've got the topography, and you've certainly got wetlands and vernal pools and other areas that we would seek to avoid. And so again, looking at areas across from the recycle center and closer down towards 128 is areas that, again, move away from Gravelly Pond and the watershed area that may be more appealing to the task force, the planning board, conservation commission, et cetera. So, and still preserve access to trails and open space. So.
Okay, very good, thank you. I think what will happen is, as we move along, if this really starts to look like an option, we'll probably ask to meet with you and other members of the college to help put a plan together.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, so the way we've leaving this is you're gonna create these districts on paper and distribute them digitally and distribute them to us. And do we want to try to arrange some kind of a walk? Or should we just leave it to people to do their own walking?
Might be good to do together. I mean, it's kind of a burn in the net, it's a scheduling nightmare, but it's.
So, yeah,
We can try.
when can we not do it? So next weekend you can't do it, is that?
Well, this weekend is too soon.
Just,
Okay, the following weekend, I'm going to that planning board training, which is all day long on Saturday.
And I had CBA visits on Saturday.
Okay, so is there,
During the week next week.
can we do it during the week? Say at 3 in the afternoon, something like that.
Sure.
Is there,
3 in the afternoon, yikes,
let's say,
Not Tuesday.
Tuesday, okay,
Thursday or Friday.
Thursday.
Thursday.
Thursday, no, not at all.
Friday's good.
I
Friday's
I
good,
can't, wait, next
Okay,
Friday, yeah, I
so
can,
the
yes,
15th?
yes,
at midday,
that's good.
The day. Okay.
midday, so like noon, 1 o'clock, something like
Sure.
that.
Okay. 1 o'clock. Friday, is that what you said?
Friday the 15th.
15th.
Right,
Okay, we will get that posted and.
and it'll be torrential rains and.
Snow.
We'll have
Flotation devices to get around.
Chris, can I ask you to comment to us on timing? Where are we?
Where are we? So we have the meeting with the planning board on the 25th. And that's, I think, a deadline we're gonna be,
Oh, the only trouble with the 15th is that aren't we seeing Emily on the 14th?
yeah, we are.
So we should do the walk before, no?
I don't,
No?
I don't think so. I
Don't
think we
think
can
so.
still
Okay.
do it.
Well, what I'm trying to get my head around is how can we possibly have anything to say on the 25th?
I think we already could. We could be meeting right now and have something to say to them.
Oh, what we have now is, well,
So we know we have a district we all agree on.
Yeah. One
And we
district,
have
20 acres,
and we
we only
have
need to double it.
a couple of alternatives to think about in the LCD.
okay,
And then we have these 2 other districts in the downtown.
I understand.
And the
Okay,
pros
that-
and cons of each of
Right.
those 3
Pros
options.
and cons
so-
and how much impact we think it's gonna have on the town. and-
So our meeting on the 25th is a progress meeting.
Absolutely.
It's an
Not a final
initial, yeah,
decision.
that, well, that's right. Well, that's a very good question, and one of the things we need to discuss with the planning board is this a handoff? Or is this becoming a partnership?
Well, okay,
I don't see how it can be a handoff.
my concern is that.
That'll be dump and run. Let Ron give input.
You have something to say, Ron?
Well, I think, I'm listening to about, 6 or 7 options that you guys are still wrestling with, but hopefully you can start to focus in on a few, have some graphics at the meeting as to what, so
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
board, public can see what everyone's talking about. And then I see going forward that we're not going to abandon all the work you've done, at least in my opinion. I want to go forward with using all the expertise you've had and been doing with the board. So the board can I think it's better for the town that we have all this brain power together to make a decision.
I think that's well said. I can't speak, I mean, it's hard for me to say as a member of the planning board also, but I think the task force would like to keep working with the planning board as we go through this process, but since I have no
Right.
choice.
I mean, at some point, it'll be in our hands to
Mhm.
make a decision, and then you will have to go win.
There you go.
So much fun.
Well,
I-
hopefully by that time, we will have had enough forums and discussions with people in the town, so we have a sense of where the town is.
Well, I was just gonna say that when we start to have, we should start to have public forums soon.
Yeah.
And those should be joint.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's right.
I think what we did
That's
on
my
Saturday was
suggestion.
very useful,
Yes,
and
was
I
good.
think we can
Yes.
move forward
Yes.
and getting
Use
more.
the same,
information.
use the same space, I suppose.
I'm always, I need to be the Grinch here, but, we don't have models. We don't have a single model from our consultant that shows us details of these districts. She is not currently analyzing all the districts that we've considered. And, our turnaround has been, 2 weeks of spotch. So I'm uncomfortable that I don't even know what, I mean, I know what I've computed but I don't know what she's computed.
Mhm.
And I think that in order to make a decision here, all of you should be looking at the details of what these parcel distributions. are.
Yeah, and the problem is we have not been very definitive with her. We keep
That's right.
throwing things at her, and so she doesn't even know what to concentrate on.
That's correct. And we've complicated it ourselves by waiting for her to come back to us,
Right, yeah,
which
that's-
was, I think, in retrospect.
we need to just keep moving. And
Well,
hopefully we'll intersect with her just in time.
The hard part here is this geographic decision.
Yeah, I agree. Well,
Well, but
so
we're very close.
I think we're getting very close.
I
And I think
thought we were very close 3 months ago.
that's because
Well,
you
you
knew the
were-
data.
you
No,
were-
no, honestly, 3 months.
Of optimism about human nature.
Honestly, 3 months ago, we had some very attractive proposals and we thought we knew where we were going.
Right.
We have learned a lot
Mhm.
and we've had a lot of information gathered, so I understand that we have good reasons to have changed our minds, but we've wandered quite a ways.
Oh, yeah.
So when you say that we're close, I'm wondering, we've got a complicated thing here.
It is complicated,
Yes.
and we're not the only ones who have to deal with it either.
That's right.
So I'm gonna take questions from the public at this point, or comments from the public.
Did Sarah get up?
I think she did.
Yeah, dropped off the call. I don't
It's
see
like,
any
it's
hands.
like we bored everybody to death. That's great.
A lot of people.
I'll make some claim to that.
So
Okay.
1 o'clock, Friday the
1
15th.
o'clock Friday, and I'll put together an itinerary and send out to everybody before the walk.
And you'll make sure it gets posted.
Well, Gail's here, she'll post it, I'm
Okay.
sure.
And I'll try and make
So that-
copies of that whole area. And so that if you want to come in and pick up the maps, I'll have Gail send out an email when they're available and you can pick it up and walk beforehand if you want to try and walk it.
Okay.
A little bit earlier so that you have a better sense of what the area is like when you meet with Emily. Happy to do the-
Thank you.
Can you send them to us electronically?
I can do that.
That
as
would be
well.
great,
But once I create it, I can save it and send it.
great.
Mark, I
That's
think I
terrific.
should send you the Valentine, because I'm not sure that you know exactly what.
Yeah, I mean, I
Family have
can,
done.
it would be better if you sent that to me. I mean, I have a general sense, but this map. here
We don't
seems
want to
like
be
it's
recreating new things.
No.
I really, I've already got,
So these I brought.
It's gonna tricky jump.
I've already got the
Yeah.
map, so I'll just send it to
I
you.
think you can see them on a bigger scale when we can get it.
Here's one now.
Okay.
To get back.
Thanks for your.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all very
Thank you,
much.
Chris.
Thank you,
It's a
Chris.
good idea.
Thanks, guys.
I had 2 cups of tea before I.
Yeah.